Hi, I'm Benji Hardy. I've got your news headlines for Tuesday, January 26th. The state's unemployment rate continued to fall in December. It's down to 4.8% according to data released today by the Arkansas Department of Workforce Services. That's the seventh straight month that Arkansas's jobless rate has declined. Meanwhile, the unemployment rate in the U.S. as a whole remained stable in December at 5%. Disability Rights Arkansas, a nonprofit advocating on behalf of disabled people, issued a report today that said a patient at the Boonville Human Development Center choked to death because of the facility's, quote, outdated and primitive responses to behaviors. The Boonville Human Development Center is one of 5 state-run intermediate facilities for people with developmental disabilities. And Disability Rights Arkansas has been criticizing practices there for some time. It last year recommended that the state close the Human Development Center over its dilapidated buildings and its practices of frequently using physical and chemical restraints. The report issued today alleges that in February of 2014, a 24-year-old woman died after choking on food because staff at the facility were ignoring choking and seizure precautions put in place to ensure her safety. Moving on, yesterday, U.S. Judge Christine Baker granted Planned Parenthood of the Heartland class certification in its lawsuit to stop enforcement of Governor Asa Hutchinson's efforts to bar Planned Parenthood from being a Medicaid provider in the state of Arkansas. Now, this dispute dates back to last summer when Hutchinson directed the State Department of Human Services to terminate Medicaid contracts with Planned Parenthood. The order to do so was in violation of federal law, according to authorities in Washington. Several other governors in other conservative-leaning states also attempted to do the same. Now, Arkansas's attempts to block Medicaid funding from reaching the healthcare provider were themselves blocked by Judge Baker last September when she enjoined the state from stopping services to plaintiffs in the lawsuit. But her ruling yesterday allows Planned Parenthood to make a motion to expand her original injunction to cover all of its Medicaid patients in the state. Speaking of abortion rights, over the weekend, about 250 people turned out at the state capitol for the 6th annual Rally for Reproductive Justice. A Fort Smith physician who works with Planned Parenthood gave an especially scathing review of a number of new laws passed by the state legislature that limit or burden access to abortion in Arkansas. She described the impact they've had on her practice, and the full text of her speech is available on the Arkansas Times blog, so that's worth checking out. On Monday, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that its previous order banning mandatory life without parole sentences for those convicted of murder as juveniles must be applied retroactively. The U.S. Supreme Court said any person who is sentenced to mandatory life without parole while still under the age of 18 should be entitled to a review of their case. Arkansas criminal defense attorney Jeff Rosenzweig said reviews have already begun for 55 Arkansas inmates who fit the bill, who were convicted of capital murder as juveniles and sentenced to life without parole. Back in 2012, the U.S. Supreme Court found that mandatory sentences of life without parole for juvenile offenders were unconstitutional, but it's been an open question about whether that decision applies retroactively. Now, the court made it clear that they do. Finally, with the Iowa caucuses approaching, Donald Trump picked up an endorsement today from a leading evangelical figure. That would be Jerry Falwell Jr., president of Liberty University. He's the son of the famous late televangelist. Despite Trump's multiple divorces, his liberal stances on abortion, and his evident lack of any knowledge of the Bible, he's been playing well among evangelical voters in Iowa, far outpolling more devout rivals such as Rick Santorum or Arkansas's own Mike Huckabee. Falwell's endorsement of Trump, like that of former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin last week, can only improve his fortunes in the nation's first nominating contest coming up. That's this coming Monday on February 1st. That's all for now. Back tomorrow.